guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I am Ashley. I'm a homeschooling mom with 8 kiddos ranging from 14 down to 4 months. I wanted to do a video today on kind of a topic that's probably talked about a lot, but I don't think people that homeschool and are in it for the long haul really talk about, because I think that it's kind of like a taboo if you have sometimes doubts about this life choice. I wanted to come on here and talk about it being okay to question at times your decision to homeschool. When kind of a backstory, and I'm sure I have a video somewhere way in the beginning where I talk about this. I never had this in my mind to start homeschooling ever. Like, it was never even a thought. And when my older two were in elementary school, I just kind of kept getting that weird nudge. And if you are a religious type, I feel like it was kind of God putting that noise in my ear. And I really pushed against it. I did not, I was not full force with it. I was not on board with it. And I feel like it is something that I really had to learn to just kind of take that leap of faith. And so that's what I did. However, having been a public school parent, I knew that there were things that I and my kids were going to be missing that I enjoyed. I loved our elementary school. I had no issues with our elementary school. It was not something that was like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing happened and now I have to pull my kids out. It really was a gradual decision that I finally made and finally listened to and just went with. And so I was the volunteer, I was the room parent, I was all of that. And I just thrived on that. I loved it. My kids loved the school. With all that being said, that was one of the things that was holding me back, because I said to myself, if I'm going to miss this a lot. Now, granted, as you get higher up into middle school and high school, you don't have those cute little Christmas parties, and you don't have those, cute little field trips and room parents and all that stuff. Yes, you can volunteer, but in a higher degree, in a higher magnitude. And so I was really hesitant. And as this is going on our, let's see, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 6th year. This is our 6th year of homeschooling. And yes, there are times, I will link a video that I did of things that I miss about public school in my experience, my short experience with my own kids. There are times that I say, is this really working? Now I know that is like, whatever you want to call the adversary, the devil, speaking things in my mind, because I truly believe that this is my calling to do this. But there are things, you are going to have doubts. You are going to have things that you miss. You are going to have questions, and that is okay. It is okay to question and doubt your decision to homeschool. Now, do you have to go with that? No. I will give an example. My high schooler is a boy. He does extracurriculars every day. He does taekwondo, he does baseball. He is at one of those things every day of the week, pretty much. And his concern, he was in public school through 3rd grade. His concern, kind of back and forth, is that he is missing out on things. And I totally get that, because in all honesty, I sometimes feel like that too. Am I missing out on the high school sports? Am I missing out on, middle school dances? Am I missing out on certain things? To an extent, yes. But there are so many groups as homeschoolers outside of public school that you can join that have prom, that have graduation, The sports aspect, yes, but there are so many homeschool groups, and I'm using baseball as an example because that's a big high school sport. That's a sport that, you can try and do in college. That is, it's a big thing. And that is what my boys do. And so, yes, to an extent, you miss out on some things, but there are things that are comparable as a homeschooler. He plays select ball. So he plays on a team that he had to try out for. He's done this for a few years. Prior to that, it was Little League. So he is very dedicated to that. He is very dedicated to Taekwondo. There are ways that you can get yourself in front of scouts for college without playing high school ball on a high school public school team. There are things that you can take them places to scouting events. You can, in tournaments, you can have them, obviously there are scouts at certain tournaments. There are ways that you can do things that are comparable. Now, in some states, you are allowed to play sports with your public school teams. There might be areas of Texas that do this, not near us. I really haven't looked much into it other than like locally, and you can't do that here. So, which I'm okay with. I kind of tend to, and it's interesting because when those thoughts kind of creep in, I see things on Facebook about local high school moms who are complaining about bullying, who are complaining about weapons being brought into school, who are complaining about fighting in school. All of these things. That this was a main reason that I did not want my kids to experience public school as a middle schooler and a high schooler. And the reason I pulled them out so early was because I didn't want them to get to that point. With all that being said, every time I try and doubt it, something comes up that's like, wait a second, this is one of the reasons you chose this. This is one of the reasons why they are doing this. It is okay. And so I am very okay with things like that popping in my head, but at the same time, I have to reiterate that to my oldest kid who did question that because most of his friends are in public school. He gets the socialization by far. He gets the socialization. He is not worn out every day because he's got a ton of homework to do before his extracurriculars. It allows him to do his extracurriculars every day, whereas a lot of kids who do public school have to skip days because they have tests they have to study for or homework, too much homework or whatever. He gets to focus on his extracurriculars once his schoolwork is done and just forget about the school. And so it is okay to let those thoughts pop in your head, but once they pop in your head, turn it around. Yes, my kid might be missing out on high school prom, but really, you can do a high school homeschool prom, which is probably filled with maybe some better behaved kids, in all honesty. There are always comparable options. And my younger kids will look at it and say, look at preschool pictures of my older three that did preschool and say, I want to go to school. I want to go to school. And I have to turn around and say, this would not be your school. Preschool, yes, is very fun, but this would not be your school. Your school would be sitting in a chair for 8 hours with a 30-minute recess, a 20-minute lunch, and that's it. With that being said, I make sure that all my kids are well socialized. Yes, that is kind of a taboo word too in the homeschooling world, but I make sure and I make it a point that they are involved in something. And that is why I start them so early. I mean, yes, I started them early, even my older kids, 3, 4, 2, because I wanted them to take pride in something and to enjoy something and be a part of something extracurricular. But at the same time, it is where they get their socialization. It is where they get pride in something that they do. So every time you get something, a doubt pop in your head, either as a parent or your kid gets that in their head, turn it around and just say, this is what is a comparable option. Look what you get to do. Look what you get to do. You get to be at home, study in your bed if you want, be with your siblings, which sometimes that's a good, sometimes that's a bad thing. Do your extracurriculars every day and not even think twice about it because you don't have to worry about homework. There are so many things that are positives. That it's interesting because once a negative pops in, that can overtake your mind. And you have to kind of compensate with like 2 or 3 positives, because that negative can be so such a noise in your brain that it overtakes the positives. So you have to turn it around and give yourself like 2 positives for every negative. And I have had to really learn how to do that, because a lot of times you are most vulnerable to those feelings and those thoughts when you are having a tough day, when your kids are having a tough day, when you're like, oh my gosh, this is like a lot today. And so you have to just kind of stop and realize why you are doing this. Nobody said it was going to be easy. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I didn't even think it was going to be possible. So it is okay to have second thoughts about your decision to homeschool. It is okay to think about what you're missing, but then think about what you're gaining from this. Because I can guarantee you it's far better, and you get to spend a lot more time with your high schooler, if you have a high schooler, and that's a big deal, than you would if they were in public school. If my high schooler was in public school, he would be at school at 7:30 to 2:30. We'd get home. He would have to hurry up, change, eat, maybe do some homework, and be out the door. And he is typically at taekwondo or baseball until 8-something-ish. I would never see him. I would see him for a short amount of time. Now, if that's what you want, then you can send him to public school. But that is not what I want. So let me know if you have any questions, any concerns. If you have any doubts, I am happy to share my experience with that, coming from a public school mentality from the beginning and then transitioning to a homeschool mentality, because that's kind of a big deal. So let me know if you have any questions down below, guys, and I will see you next time. Take care.